Hello, everyone. Um, this is not part of the 2020 year of happiness. This is it's a Q&A. I get a lot of Q's, and hopefully my A's are okay with you guys. Um, Questions I get are regarding work, work environment, work challenges. Today's question is about millennials and Generation X, Y, Z, etc. Generational challenges in the workplace. I personally experienced this a lot, especially in companies I work for. I guess it may have started a little over 10 years ago, where we were learning about millennials, people who were born around the turn of the century, after 1990 or something like that, who were getting in, just joining in the workplace, and they were different, right? And it was talking about, how they were different, right? How they were different. And that's okay. And then I think every couple of years or so, there's another article on how they're different, how they're different. I find that these how they're different things haven't really solved any of the problems we see with generational challenges. I mean, you have things like "Hey Boomer," where people are just conflicting. They're hating on one another because they're different. And like with a lot of diversity training, what the problem is people don't explain why, right? Why generations are different. Because I mean, I think Hannah put it best is that when you don't know why something is, you don't really have a really strong handle on how to handle that. So let's talk about millennials, Generation Z, or etc. I don't actually know the difference between a millennial and Generation Z. Someone could perhaps tell me in the comments. But to me, anyone who's born in the 90s is a millennial to me. My children are the older ones, at least to me, are millennials. They're just starting to work in the workplace. I don't know what generation I'd call them, but they're kids. In my mind, they're kids. But what we find in the workplace is that these new people, these new young folks, these millennials particularly, who come into the workplace, don't seem to have respect for the way things were done. Right? They're a little more entitled, and they're demanding, and they want flexible work styles, and they want lots of freedoms, which people like myself didn't have when we were coming into the workplace. We were working to adhere to things rather than sort of demand certain types of things, demand respect and stuff like that. And now the question is why. So in managing, I would say managing my own children, I see the why. So the difference is, let's imagine those of us who were born in the 70s, the 60s, and maybe even the early 80s. Think about our childhood, right? Think about information. Think about opportunity. A lot of opportunity we couldn't create ourselves. We would play outside and play games and stuff. But when it came to commerce, to business, how were we able to, we couldn't create our own careers. We really couldn't do it. I mean, unless you're an artist or something. I remember as a kid, I would draw comic books in class. David Whitcomb and myself would draw, or whatever friend I had at the time. We'd sit there and make comic books and sell them. That's a way of doing things. We model ourselves after the Marvel, what is it, the Marvel bullpen, and try to make comic books. I remember those guys, man. Takes me back. But that's the kind of things we sort of try to do to be, be entrepreneurial. We'd hear stories. I remember hearing about Bill Gates when I was in high school and what he had done. And, it seemed like, wow, there are people who starting their own business, but they need lots of advantages. Bill Gates had great advantages in life, and he's also a very intelligent person, much more intelligent than I will ever be. But it didn't seem, we couldn't be entitled. I couldn't walk into the workplace and sort of say, hey, this is what I want, because to me, the only opportunities were the opportunities someone would give me if I were to work in their company. So there's a lot of yes, boss, let's do what you say type of approach, I guess I would say, for lack of a better description, when it comes to the working world. But if you look at what children have now, and you imagine if you were a child at the same period, you'd see the world differently. Information is everywhere. Information on not only what to do, but how to do it. I had the Encyclopedia Britannica as a kid. My parents had the entire series, and I used that to learn, and I think it helped me sort of think that information and knowledge was key, and I think it molded me to a degree. But imagine if I had the internet, and I knew that I could start a business just by simply filming a video like this, sharing information, how to start a business. I didn't know how to do these things. I remember writing magazine articles for some imaginary magazine or book I was going to publish at some time, but I never knew how it was done. I had no one around me to do so. So, young people don't need, let's say us, if those of us who start businesses, own businesses, and are executives in businesses, they don't need us. They can do it on their own. They can build computers and sell them out of their house. They can provide advice. They can do everything pretty much on their own using these platforms that are relatively free to use. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Things I don't even know because I'm a boomer, type of thing. And so that's why. I mean, if the world is your oyster and you know that you can, or you feel, or you believe, let's say, that you can do it yourself. The information is free, opportunity is free, and that's how you believe. That's how you're going to act. There's no innate flaw or weakness in people or these young people because of that. That's just the way they are. And we would be the same if we were raised in an environment where information was free and simple and easy, and we could watch whatever we wanted to watch. I mean, my children will flip through YouTube channels like every 2 minutes, and we panic like, oh, they don't have attention, etc. No attention span. I mean, come on. I see adults doing the same thing on their phones and trying to view videos while they're driving. I mean, we do it too. It's something we do. Maybe not as much as young people do, but if we had what they had, we do the same thing. And we couldn't change the channel. There was one TV at home, or maybe two. We didn't have that many television channels, and even if we did, we still had to go by a schedule about what we were going to see. We couldn't see it when we wanted to see it. We couldn't do things when we wanted to do them. But humans are interesting. If we can do something, we'll do it. And, the young people have that opportunity to do something that they want to do when they want to do it. And if we want these young people to work for us, we have to deal with that. We have to, we can't force, as I said before, we can't force anyone to be anything. But anyway, the reason that is the why, so to speak. That's my explanation of them and justification of them. But how do you work with that type of person? That's what I'm here to answer for you. And the thing is, there's a need there. There's a need that's inside of you as well. Those of you who aren't millennials or Zeds or whatever it happens to be, what you're dealing with is the need for information, the need for affirmation, the need for respect, the need for position, all the basic needs you have. They want those as well. They just believe that they can get them in a different way. They believe that, rules, etc., are things that can be easily changed because they have the ability to flow from company to company, place to place, idea to idea, like they do with television channels. But what you find, and I found this when you see things like Facebook, Instagram, etc., they change their format, right? People are plugged into it. They complain, but they don't leave, right? Unless there's another option for them. So how you work with these people? You set up your organization the way you want it, the way you want it to run. There's no need to cater to people just because that's they ask for something. Sometimes, as I've shown you through this video, sometimes what you think you want, you don't want, so to speak. However, what you need to be aware of is that there are other companies that are providing, more flexibility. So it's not about providing so much the flexibility, because if you can't do it, you just can't do it. It's about addressing those needs, the core needs, respect, opportunity, salary, etc. Most people, regardless of what they may say about, I don't like the way my company's food tastes, or I don't get the same benefits Google provides, etc. But that person likes coding, or that person likes problem solving, or they like training, and you provide those opportunities in the workplace, people will complain. That's life, right? But they'll stay. I have the data to prove that. I've worked at companies that don't have a vision, companies that don't have direction, companies where turnover is high, low, all over the place. And people stay for the same reasons they've stayed at every other company. They enjoy their manager, they enjoy their environment, and they enjoy what they do. So it's key, if you're creating a company or you're a manager, make sure that you've tapped into the talents and the skills of your staff, and you allow them to use those talents and skills so they can feel more fulfilled. Listening, having an organization where people feel at least as if they have some sort of input, some type of input. People enjoy that as well. That's why comment sections exist. People feel that they have some sort of input, even if that input isn't the biggest type of input. So it's understanding the why. You would be the same if not for, just when you were born. But understanding the why, and then understanding the why of all of us, which are the basic needs that people in the professional realm need. Freedom, a little bit of independence, respect, and opportunity to use their God-given, world-given talents and skills. So regardless of generation, if you can focus on that, and when you're managing or you're organizing or you're doing something, and you can tap into people's talents and make sure you're truly tapping into that, you won't have too much of a problem regardless of generation. So that's my advice to that question that I've received. If you have any other questions, specific ones that I can answer on a Q&A, let me know. I'll try to do a Q&A every Friday this month. Okay, take care. Bye.